most. Roger Waters, formerly of Pink Floyd, he's shitting on Bono, which again, I like U2, right? U2, I really enjoy their music. But Bono is so cringe. He's such a cringe person, and he's so easy to make fun of. And he does do good things, but lately he's been just sort of like, it feels like he's sort of this shill for the corporate war machine. And you know, it's hard to have an opinion these days, especially as artists, because no matter what, you're going to alienate at least half of your audience, right? Like no matter what it is. If Bono came out as a Trump supporter tomorrow, half of his audience are going to be like, fuck this guy. And the other half are going to be like, goddamn right. Bono and Kid Rock. Come on now. So, and I'm not shitting on Trump supporters. Obviously, vote for whoever you want. Fucking who cares? Except for Joe Biden. Fuck Joe Biden. Anyways, Roger Waters brands Bono disgusting over Israel speech. So what he's talking about is, we covered this actually back in October when the U2 started their residency at the Sphere in Las Vegas. Bono, after October 7th, after the attack on Israel, Bono did a special, changed the song to Pride, changed the lyrics to Pride. And at the time, I thought it was really beautiful. And I love that song, Pride. It's such a great song. And I thought it was great because obviously the people who suffered on October 7th should be remembered and should be, kept in your hearts, because they're still innocent people. They still, they have families. It's crazy to me to think that, oh my God, moving Dutchman. What the fuck? Wait. Oh, okay. Moving Dutchman, thank you so much for that sub over here on Twitch. By the way, we're almost to 75 followers on what you call it? What do you call it? On Kick. So we'll be soon monetized over there. And I appreciate you subbing over here, my friend. How you doing? Good to see you. I hope you are well. We're not going to be on Roger Waters this whole time. So I just want to give you guys a reminder. We're going to watch the video from... we're mostly going to be shitting on Bono today, friends. But we will be watching. We will be getting a little bit of Roger. I know he's a pompous ass. We all can agree he's an asshole. But let's go and check out the video. I know I pulled that bitch up, so give me a second here. Here we go. So just as a reminder,
in the light of what's happened in Israel and Gaza, a song about non-violence seems somewhat ridiculous, even laughable, but our prayers have always been for peace and for non-violence,
which is perfectly acceptable in my eyes, right?
Our hearts and our anger, you know where that's pointed. So sing with us.
Sing with us.
And those beautiful kids at that music festival. Early morning, October 7th, as the sun is rising in the desert sky, stars of David, they took your life, but they could not take your pride. In the light of...
Anyways, they could not take your pride. Oh man, that song is so good. And this still gives me chills. And I still think that this is a perfectly acceptable thing. So Roger Waters was recently on Al Jazeera, which is, it's definitely, I can't remember what, it's a Middle East, it's a Arab, I believe, channel. We have an Al Jazeera America here too. They probably have an Al Jazeera Europe and Canada and all that stuff. He did so obviously we know where they stand when it comes to the Israel-Palestine conflict, right? Like they're definitely going to be backing the Palestinians, which is very odd that, these Muslim countries don't don't want to accept the Palestinians. It's just like, and there's also, there's this idea that Arab countries and Muslim-based countries they want this conflict to keep going so they can, wage war on Israel. Cursory knowledge of all that shit that's going on over there. So I'll try not to speak too much online, but you guys know how it goes. I'm just talking shit all the time. So Roger decides that, hey, fuck Bono. And let me go to so here's no, that's not Alana. Here, I'm gonna play the video from Roger, because I posted it up on my reels here, because you know how obsessive I get with Roger. So this is what Roger
should
said.
Go and pick him up by his ankles and shake him until he stops.
Hold on, let's go back and try it.
Anybody who knows Bono should go and pick him up by his ankles and shake him until he stops being a shit. You know, we have to start speaking to these people and saying, your opinion is so disgusting and degrading when you stand up for the Zionist entity. What he did in the Sphere in Las Vegas a couple of weeks ago, singing about the Stars of David, was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. Anybody who knows Bono should go and pick.
Now, those are pretty strong statements, right? I don't agree with Roger at all. I think, given the moment, the world was shocked, right? When you see those images of a Holocaust survivor being captured, young kids being just mowed down mercilessly, families being just murdered in their homes, women walking around with blood down by their nether regions. It was very shocking. And to respond with a call for peace, I don't think that is what I said about you, Roger. Shake him around. You can pick him up by his feet and shake him. Roger Waters. So getting into this a little bit here, Roger Waters has hit out of YouTube, hit out at, that's such a weird way to say fucking talking shit, but Roger Waters has hit out at YouTube frontman Bono for his recent comments in support of Israel. The former Pink Floyd musician, 80, branded the Iron singer as disgusting and an enormous shit, which is funny. But I think you got to understand where Roger Waters is coming from, especially since Roger Waters has been fighting this Palestinian cause since 2006, right? Like, or at least the early to mid 2000s. Roger Waters has been fighting for the Palestinians, which, in the Palestinians' perspective, they were moved off their land just 70 years ago. And, there was death and there's been wars, and Israel has been expanding and encroaching on on territory that's supposed to be of Palestine. And, the apartheid nation that is Israel, which is wrong. That is wrong. I don't know what the solution is. I don't know if an ethnic cleansing, which always gets conflated with genocide. Maybe the Palestinians need to go. I don't know. I don't think that Israel should have to go. I don't think the Israelis should be murdered. I think the Jews have been fucked over long enough. Again, I don't know that much about this. Only what you absorb in the past few years that I've been looking into this, because we've been covering Roger and his opinions on Palestine and stuff. So it's all coming out now. You're seeing these big movements for Palestine, which the whole queers for Palestine is still funny. But the response of Israel and the murder and the absolute destruction is just horrifying. So I don't, there's no easy answer to this. I don't think that more innocent people should be dead or dying and murdered. But maybe, I don't know, maybe the Palestinians have to be moved again, or they have to be accepted into other places. I do want to play a clip from Sam Harris, which I know Sam Harris has lost a lot of love over the past few years because of his response to COVID and how much he wanted to bow down to all of the pressures of the vaccine and such. And a lot of people are not cool with Sam Harris anymore. And I don't hold that opinion. I mean, he's still a very intelligent human being. It's just that he sort of has gone off on his own. I just don't agree with him. So it's on everything. So he talks about Israel. He's a big supporter of Israel. So maybe we'll get to that clip. Let's get through this a little bit more because we're going to shift more into Russia and Ukraine, kind of. But before we get there, during a recent YouTube show during their residency at the Sphere in Las Vegas, Bono paid his respects to those killed on October 7th, an attack on the Israeli music festival Supernova. I would love to see the Pride March in Palestine. Yeah, natives, for real. For real. That still confuses me. I don't know if the gays have missed that. Like, did they miss that big thing where fucking it's completely unacceptable and they don't like you? Muslims don't like even here in America, when you go to Ramtramck, I don't know, it's south of Detroit. It's a little community that has been completely taken over by the Muslims, and not in a bad way, right? Like in a very democratic way. There was so many Muslims there and so many immigrants there that they decided to vote in a Palestinian, or not Palestinian, I'm sorry, a Islamic power structure, which is totally fine. That's what's great about this country, is that you can form little communities where you want it to be ran the way you want it to be ran. If you can skirt tail corruption, that is, even on the local level. But the first thing that they did was remove the pride flag from all places, like anything public. The first thing that the Muslims did when they came into power was remove the pride flag. So to me, it's very confusing to see how many like very liberal minded people, and I use the word liberal, I'd say far left, people are into standing up for the Palestinians. But again, I see the point. I see, like they're murdering them. Like, it is a genocide going on over there. And it has been an apartheid state in Israel. So something needs to change. Who knows what the fuck that is? Let's see. But why are you...
How dare you?
Why are you gay?
Introducing the song Pride in the Name of Love, Bono said, in the light of what's happened in Israel and Gaza, a song about nonviolence seems somewhat ridiculous, even laughable. And we just watched that. In a new interview with Al Jazeera, Waters lashed out at Bono's comments. My mother told me when faced with difficult problems, the first thing to do is read. This is something that Roger says all the fucking time. And it's true. It's very true, right? Like, we can definitely agree that, like, hey, you should read more about what's going on. You should definitely try to understand it from all angles and from all perspectives, so you can have a decent idea of what's going on. Still might not be the right idea in that, and your opinion might not resonate with anybody else, but it is very important for us to read and understand what's going on to the best of our ability, especially if we're going to be commenting on it and, read a lot, unlike me. Anybody who knows Bono should go and pick him up by his ankles and shake him until he stops being an enormous shit. Which, again, Bono's kind of cringe. I'm not going to lie. He's kind of cringe. We have to start saying to these people, your opinion is so disgusting and so degrading. Sticking up for the Zionist entity, which he's being very... He's using choice words, right? He's saying the Zionist entity, and he's not blaming Jewish people, right? It's the people who are in charge, the people who are making the decisions that he's attacking here. What he did a couple of weeks ago in the Sphere, singing about the Stars of David, was one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in my life. Waters has consistently been outspoken and critical of Israeli government. Last month, he was reportedly dropped by music rights company BMG over his inflammatory remarks about Israel because the Jews are a big part of the entertainment industry. Not anti-Semitic, folks. It's just a reality. But you fuck with them, they're gonna fuck with you back. Israelis are nobody to fuck with, folks. Like, we think of Jewish guys as like dumpy little dudes who have the missing hair right here, the little bald patch here. We think of them as Woody Allen, right? No, fucking Israelis, they are nothing to fuck with. They hit hard and they don't stop because they've been fucked over for a long time and they're not trying to do that again. Rightfully fucking so. Variety reports that Waters himself referred to being fired by BMG in a video interview with Glenn Greenwald last November. However, the comment was buried almost half an hour into the conversation. Waters claimed the split was due to pressure from pro-Israeli interests towards BMG's parent company, Bertelsmann, which, I think BMG is a German company, though, I believe. A source told the publication that BMG did not agree with Waters' version of the events. The rumored split was just the latest fallout from Waters' controversial remarks about Israel, some of which have been met with allegations of anti-Semitism. Now, what's interesting is how the narrative has shifted towards Roger Waters. Before October 7th, Roger Waters was just automatically labeled an anti-Semite, right? Now, and in the way that the press would write about it is like anti-Semite Roger Waters. Now they're being a little bit more objective because they know that the left are so supportive of the pro-Palestinian movement. Waters, who has vehemently and consistently denied these accusations, caused an uproar after wearing a uniform on stage in Berlin that was compared to those worn by the Nazis, which was so stupid. We debunked that. That's been a uniform he's been wearing for 40 fucking years since he's created the wall. So that was pro-Israeli money creating a story that wasn't actually a fucking story. He won the legal battle in April 2023, and the magistrates of Frankfurt instructed a venue to cancel his concert, accusing him of being one of the most widely known anti-Semites in the world. So it's interesting how these publications have now sort of started referring to him as, and saying some have accused him instead of just labeling him anti-Semitic former head of Pink Floyd, Roger Waters. I'm seeing it more and more when you start reading about this. So obviously, the United States is perpetuating this war. The United States could easily just stop sending ammunition and bombs and money to Israel to show support, to call for peace, right? Obviously, the United States and Israel are very close allies, right? And no matter what, we have to get their back, I guess. But we have to think about who this is benefiting, and it's obviously the international security companies who are international security corporations that are fucking just laundering just billions of dollars from the United States taxpayers, and probably from anybody listening, probably from your country too, or watching right now. They're probably any tax money, anything going to Israel is you're funding genocide. So, let's see here. Where are we going after this? So, Bono is in fact supporting the war machine, right? Just by supporting Israel, you are supporting a very specific ideology where they want to destroy the Palestinian people. Now, what's the solution? I don't fucking know, right? But it is, in fact, funding people being murdered a lot. Bono, that's just where he's at. Again, it's hard to be an artist, especially an artist like Bono, who does speak up about causes that he believes in. I call for peace, always have, always will. which that's classic liberal shit, man. So where are we going? So now Bono the other day was paying tribute to this dude named Alexei Navalny, which I've seen Alexei spelled with a Y and an E, or ending with a Y and an I. I don't know what the proper spelling is because I've seen both. Maybe it's different from different states. Alexei Navalny is they call him the opposition to Putin, right? And of course, the United States in the last few days has been sort of lifting this dude up to sainthood, Navalny, who is Russian and again was a opposition to Putin. And so this is what Bono is doing over at the Sphere.
Ukraine. Edge and I got to stand with some people in that city in Ukraine as they stood in a train station, which was a converted bomb shelter. We got to stand with some of the people of Ukraine as they waited for the train to arrive with the rest of the free world on it.
I'm over Ukraine. And like, I'm not trying to sit here and fucking defend Putin, but there is, if you listen to him talk, and I know that Putin fucking does horrible things and probably had this dude Alexei murdered, or maybe the CIA did. Who fucking knows? Because guess what? We've been lifting this dude up into sainthood, Alexei into sainthood, like he was some beautiful human being who was going to save Russia. It's all just propaganda to get the Americans whipped up into being okay with war. We don't want war. A majority of Americans do not want war, especially this fucking interventionist bullshit that we've been doing for the past fucking 60, fucking 70 years, right? Ever since the end of World War II. Maybe the Korean War counts a little bit, not being interventionist, but it's not. Fucking, we've been just sticking our noses in shit and starting wars, and our CIA, who love to go and overturn governments so we can get the resources, so we can have war, because war is profitable, resources are profitable. So we need the government and though the war hawks need the American people to be on board, and they're sort of uplifting this Navalny dude as some saint, which we'll find out is not true at all. So let's watch Bono be a shill.
We were proud to boast on that occasion. We boast in more ways than one. They're still waiting for some of that train to arrive.
Oh, you know what? I got distracted. So what I was saying was that, Putin has been very vocal about NATO. And we had back in 2014 with Ukraine, with the Americans helping to overturn the government. I mean, we've been sort of pushing Russia into a war for a while. Again, I'm not a Putin apologist or a sympathizer, because I know he's it's a fucking tyrannical government over there. But you should be listening to fucking your enemy, right? Like you wanna take some advice. The one thing that was interesting about the Tucker Carlson interview was that, it revealed, which I think it already came out, but there was a peace agreement already. And then Boris Johnson went over to Russia, or to the Ukraine, and talked Zelensky out of it. There was a peace agreement like very close to the start of the Ukraine-Russian war. And so why would Boris Johnson go over there, the former prime minister of the UK, why would he go over there and talk them out of peace? Well, there's a lot of money in war. Again, we love war over here. So there was a path to peace, and we ignored it. And so what the fuck are we doing over there other than extorting money from taxpayers internationally?
America, you're so generous, but let's get these people what they need.
You know what, Naders? Tucker, that interview, there were some great things about the interview. And then there was also, it felt like he was powdering Putin's balls, and that whole like thing, like the way that he made Moscow and Russia, like it was some like happy wonderland. It bothered me. But then again, what do we know about what's actually going on over there, right? What do we know about what's happening, what the day-to-day living is like? I thought it was interesting when he went to the the Russian McDonald's, and he was like, it's the same shit. It's just different. And the food costs over there were lower than what we're paying over here. I don't know if that was a setup. That could have been. I mean, that's something that's happened before, right? With North Korea, where they have like, hey, come look at our fucking grocery stores full of stuff. We're not eating dogs. There's not millions of people starving to death, which you don't hear any reports about millions of Russians going hungry, right? It does seem like they're doing okay. Russia does have a good amount of oil that they export, and that's a huge resource, which shit, I'm sure America is looking at like, hey, sure would like to get some of that all, right? And the funny thing is too, is I don't know, like to me, it came off as Tucker was a little bit powdering his balls, but we haven't really seen any other journalists go over there and try to have a conversation with him. So I think it was a good thing. There were some things I thought were kind of whack about it, but there was also, some good stuff that he was doing. I think it was good that he went over there and tried to show the day-to-day that people over there aren't, starving and only eating potatoes and cabbage. But as for the interview itself, there was just certain aspects of it that I just thought were like softball-y kind of questions. I mean, how do you talk to a murderous dictator? I don't know. It's not easy being a journalist, and I'm sure it's not easy being Tucker Carlson, because he is he came under such scrutiny. But I think the way that people, especially people who have been red-pilled, is they see, anytime you see the narrative of the mainstream media saying, don't do this, don't listen to him, don't. I think what we've learned over the last like 30 years, but especially since the pandemic, a lot of people are sort of waking up to this idea that the media doesn't like us. They don't care about us. They're only there to sell fucking Pfizer and to keep the fucking war machine going, to keep propagating the U.S. government, because again, we know that the U.S. government does intervene in these companies, in these news organizations, in old Twitter. We know that that's what they do. We know that they've been involved in making movies since the 50s. So of course, anytime you see the media telling you no, don't, I think a lot of people are like, wait a second, why? What the fuck? And it's the same thing with this Navalny guy. It's like, why is all of a sudden everybody up this dude's ass? Like, why does everybody love Alexei Navalny so fucking much? It makes you wonder. And just doing a simple fucking Google search will show you like his fucked up past. And we'll get there. And there's always room for redemption, like we make mistakes, we're human, but it's just such abundant hypocrisy. I love the liberal hive mind. Is that what it's called? It's a channel on YouTube. They're fucking awesome. He always opens it up with like the abundant hypocrisy of the far left, or whatever he says. But it's true. It's true. It's like we'll ignore that fucking Muslims hate the gays and the Palestinians don't like gay people. So we can free them, we'll ignore that part of it. The left will ignore it, and still support it. It doesn't make sense to me. But you get hypocrisy on both sides, right? They're all cut from the same cloth. They're all just trying to get paid, right? They're all just trying to make as much money as they possibly can before they either get voted out or go to the private sector. So let's keep going on this this guy, this fucking shill.
They're fighting for our freedom.
They're fighting for our freedom. And that's another thing, fighting for freedom and spreading democracy, that has lost so much weight, I think, in the long run here. That's not what's going on here. We don't give a fuck about people, or at least the people who are coordinating these wars. They don't give a fuck about the human cost. They don't care about freedom. They only care about making sure that they're in the red. Is that right? Or in the black? They're just trying to make sure that their profit margins keep going up each quarter. They don't give a fuck about anything else. And power, of course, consolidating power. That's another one. But they're sort of hand in hand, right?
Just theirs. Next week it'll be 2 years since Putin invaded, tried to destroy the hard-won freedoms of that 41 million people, whoever they are. Next it'll be Poland, next it'll be Lithuania, East Germany, who knows where.
Like, he's really riling people up here, right? Like, it's going to be Germany. It'll be East Germany next. It'll be Poland next. Which, another good thing that came out of the Tucker interview, and of course you got to take everything that Putin says with a grain of salt, because he is a very intelligent human being. He was a part of the Russian intelligence. Of course, he could just be sitting there lying about his intentions, obviously. But one of the things that came out of the Tucker interview was like, hey, we have no interest in like war and mutual self-destruction. You know, like we don't have that. We don't want that. We just want you guys to do what we agreed to do. And NATO was supposed to be sort of this temporary thing. And as soon as Russia was like, hey, we're on board, let me get involved, let us into NATO, they're like, oh, fuck no. we gotta have a red devil, right?
This man will or won't go. For these people, freedom is not just a word in a song. For these people, freedom is the most important word in the world. So important that Ukrainians are fighting and dying for it.
They're being forced to fight and die for it, by the way.
So important that Alexei Navalny chose to give his up.
He chose to give his life? I don't know.
Apparently, Putin.
No worries, Naders. Thanks for stopping by, buddy.
Say his name. So I thought tonight, the free people from here, people who believe in freedom, we must say his name. Not just remember it, but say it. Alexei Navalny. Alexei Navalny.
Navalny.
Alexei.
So let's go through this. Rolling Stone, more propaganda. YouTube paid tribute to Russian opposition leader, right? That's how they're labeling them, because Russia bad, always bad. Ukraine cool, right? One of the most corrupt countries in the world as of like 10 minutes ago. Now they're good. We love them. We have a comedian leader, Zelensky, who is just fighting for freedom. YouTube paid tribute to Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, who was imprisoned in a Russian penal colony where he died suddenly on Friday. On Saturday, during YouTube's residency at the Sphere Las Vegas, Bono addressed the crowd before their performance of Crowded Houses. Don't dream it over, a staple to their residency. As fan video footage showed, Bono began by speaking about busking in Kyiv subway in Ukraine a couple of months before Russian President Vladimir Putin invaded the country. Edge and I got to stand with some people in Ukraine as they stood in that train station, which was converted into a bomb shelter. So here we are. Bono, like, sticking up for Navalny. And I understand, right? Like, if you're just absorbing what the media is telling you, Navalny is this saint who is Putin's opposition. Navalny was detained by Russian authorities on what are widely regarded as fabricated charges of corruption intended to silence his criticism of Putin prior to being arrested. And by the way, Putin does arrest people who speak out against him, right? Protesters, anybody who speaks out against him, he does have them arrested, and he does poison the fuck out of people, which he poisoned Navalny. Prior to being arrested, Navalny survived at least 2 documented assassination attempts. His imprisonment spurred widespread protests against the Putin government throughout Russia. In 2022, Navalny was sentenced to 9 years in prison with an additional 19 years added to his sentence in August. Apparently, Putin would never, ever say his name, so I thought tonight, the free people from here, people who believe in freedom, we must say his name. So they had him say his name. So, Navalny, opposition, everybody loves him, right? Trump calls his fraud punishment a form of Navalny. God damn it, Trump. Let's see. Twitter temporarily suspends Alexei Navalny's wife. Oh, wow. When was this? The widow of Russian opposition leader, that's how they say it too, right? Was temporarily suspended from X, formerly Twitter, on Tuesday after announcing she would continue her dead husband's fight against Vladimir Putin authoritarian government. Since Navalny's death on Friday, Yulia Navalnaya has led public campaign to pressure the Russian government for the return of her husband's body and for cooperation from the international community in holding the Putin government accountable for his death. Russian authorities claim the imprisoned descendant died after a sudden collapse on Friday while serving a 19-year sentence at a prison in Western Siberia. Navalnaya created the X account on Monday and posted a video accusing the Kremlin of keeping Navalny's body in order to hide traces of poisonous substances that may have been used to engineer his death. They are hiding his body, not showing or giving it to his mother, and they lie, waiting for the traces of Putin's latest Novichok to disappear. Before his death, Navalny survived okay, so we know that. So why did X take him off? Her account was suspended Tuesday after posting a video. Navalny's mother demanding her son's body be returned to the family. I'm reaching out to you, Vladimir Putin. The resolution is a matter depends solely on you. Let me finally see my son. I demand that Alexei's body be released immediately so I can bury him like a human being, which is fair. Like, why the fuck wouldn't you want your child? During the suspension, they wrote on Telegram that she had been shadow banned. Twitter has imposed restrictions on my account, which I opened yesterday, Navalnaya wrote on Telegram. Twitter representatives did not comment on what this was about. She added, noting that followers also reported being unable to find her searches. Her account was restored after several hours. X claimed on Tuesday that her account was mistakenly flagged by platforms' mechanism against manipulation and spam. So, X still working on it. So this is what we're trying to raise up. And RIP to this guy, okay? Like, I don't want to take away from the fact that a human being died, right? Whatever he was up to over there, obviously a lot of people loved him. But I think that the way he's being used in the United States and probably in Western cultures, Western countries, is that he was some kind of saint and they're using him to continue to have the support of people, the support of the citizens of these countries, and to be okay with this interventionist war that's going on and the proxy war of the United States, which, you know, Alexei Navalny's far-right racist pass back in spotlight after Putin critics' death. As world leaders pay tribute to Russian opposition leader everywhere. Russian opposition leader. Fucking over and over again. You've seen it 3 different times. Alexei Navalny, some have drawn attention to some inconvenient aspects of his past. Tributes have been paid across Europe and the U.S. to Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny, the latest critic of Vladimir Putin to die under mysterious circumstances. Let me pull this in a little bit more. Navalny, who died on Friday after falling unconscious in an Arctic penal colony, was hailed as one of the Russian president's most formidable foes, a thorn in Putin's side who refused to cower to him. However, as Western politicians pay their respects, some more uncomfortable aspects of Navalny's career have been brought back to surface. Navalny, who died, Labor leader Sir Keir Starmer was criticized for praising the courage of Navalny by Mish Rahman, who sits on the party's NEC ruling body, referring to the opposition leader's far-right past. Navalny took part in the Russian March, an annual demonstration that draws ultra-nationalists, including some who adopt swastika-like symbols. Rahman tweeted, "He has never apologized for his earliest xenophobic videos or his decision to attend the Russian March." Now, we all know that things can be, marches and protests can be labeled as hate or far right, and it's sort of a way to downplay the message. So we do have to take that into consideration. But he has, we'll get there. You know, and even some of these, you'll have some governments who send in agent provocateurs who act like they're white nationalists or you know, Nazis and carry around Nazi symbols and stuff. We've seen this happen. We know that this is possible. So this is something that might have happened to Navalny and in these marches. But who knows, right? This was back, I believe, in the mid-2000s. Putin is an evil tyrant and nobody should be in prison for political opposition, let alone die this way. But that doesn't mean that the leader of the Labour Party should be lauding a man with links to far right who refers to Muslims as cockroaches. If somebody here, if somebody of notoriety here in the United States ever referred to Muslims as cockroaches ever in their past or present, they would immediately be disqualified from voicing their opinion. They would be completely downplayed. People would hate them. They'd be canceled. They deplatformed, all of that shit, right? You have people who have Ukrainian flags in their Ukrainian and Palestinian flags in their bios or in their right on their screen names on their social media, who will easily look past this because Navalny, he was the opposition leader to Putin. He was against Putin. Rahman, I'm just going to call him ramen noodles, appeared to be referring to the notorious video from 2007 in which Navalny appears to compare Muslim immigrants in Russia to cockroaches as he advocated for gun ownership. I'm not mad at gun ownership, but, you know, why are you calling Muslims cockroaches? Weird, right? In another video, he is dressed as a dentist and appears to compare migrants in Moscow to tooth cavities. Radio Free Europe reports. He says, "I recommend full sanitization. Everything in our way should be carefully but decisively be removed through deportation." Sounds like kind of sounds like Trump, doesn't he? Has that xenophobic far right shit going on. Although, what the fuck? I don't know what fell over there. Shortly after releasing both clips, which are still on his YouTube channel, he still has a YouTube channel that's up. I tried to find it, but they're all in Russian, so I don't know how the fuck is going on. Navalny has expelled, okay, so shortly before releasing both clips, which are still on his YouTube channel, Navalny was expelled by the liberal Yabloko, I don't know, party over his nationalist activities. Having participated in the Russian March, an annual rally associated with the ultra-nationalist far-right groups chanting slogans such as Russia for ethnic Russians, which that gets a little weird, right? And we have that here in America, and at this moment where it pretty much is an invasion. Let's just call it an invasion. We have people from China and Kazakhstan and all over the globe. People are just coming in droves over our southern border. So there is some of that rah nationalist shit going on right now, in which I'm not completely opposed to that idea, because I'm all for immigration. I come from immigrants. Most of the people that live in America come from immigrants. My mom, she came from Mexico and found a whole life here. So I'm all about immigration, and I get that people want to breathe in the sweet free air of America, but there is a right way to do it. You have to vet folks. You can't just let fucking terrorists over the fucking border, which we already saw. Wait until you will know my name, and like that guy who was at the border saying you will know my name, and he ended up being a fucking terrorist. We're just letting people in. We're curating a space for them. We're giving them money, shipping them to whatever city they want to go to. Meanwhile, the folks in the poor communities are suffering the most because their resources are being diverted to people who aren't even fucking United States citizens, which is fucked up. It's not the rich that are suffering from this. It's the poor. It's always the poor who fucking who suffer from these policies. And no other country, I mean, and what's crazy is that this is happening all over the world, but like most countries and most presidents for the past fucking how many decades here in the United States have always talked about border security as something that needs to be taken care of and held down. But all of a sudden, 7.8 million people coming over? 7.8 million motherfuckers just crossing the border? That's a lot. That's a lot of people. We don't know who they are. We don't know what their purpose is here for. They're just here, and they're from all over the world. Again, not against immigration, but it's crazy. So, of course, there's a little bit of this nationalistic rah-rahing going on. Fucking Trump's like, I'm going to deport everybody. And I don't know how wrong he is about that. Like, I don't know. Like, it's a felony to cross into this country undocumented. It's illegal as fuck. It's a felony. So maybe some motherfuckers should get shipped out. It's a crazy situation. After leaving Yabloko, Navalny went on to co-found the National Russian Liberation Movement, which vowed to fight against the ruling regime and kleptocracy, but was also viewed as far-right and anti-immigration. What the fuck is kleptocracy? What is that? Let me just look that up. I see these words sometimes. It's like, what the fuck does that mean? Kleptocracy is a government where corrupt leaders use their power to steal the wealth of the people and the land they govern. Well, that sounds pretty familiar to me here in the United States as well. Okay. Where were we? In August of 2008, Navalny referred to Georgians as rodents during Russia's attack on the country in comments for which he later apologized. So he did apologize. And look, I'm not going to call these immigrants who are coming into the United States rodents or cockroaches or anything. They're human beings, but we do have to take into consideration that not every migrant that comes over that border is escaping, a tyrannical government. Not all of them are coming here with good intentions. We're seeing all over the country now these crime waves that are happening. Like, they're turning into gangs. They're roving gangs of migrants, fucking kicking the shit out of police and just robbing people. And when you look at Chicago and you hear the citizens talk about this, and it's like, Chicago, they're robbing us, they're harassing us, and their resources are being cut and diverted so that they can live comfortably. We're turning nice hotels into fucking dormitories for them. I've never seen this in such a way that we're just, come on over, just fuck it. Like, it's really odd to me. But anyways, I'm not going to start name calling people. Navalny never apologized for the controversial videos from 2007, which, again, the videos are still up where he's calling, he's being, racist and shit. Leonid Volkov, who served as the head of Navalny's network of regional political offices in Russia, told the New Yorker in 2021 that he regrets the videos but decided not to delete them because it's historical fact. That's fair. That's fair. There's shit that I'm not taking down that I've said over the past that, it's like, hey, I've evolved since then. He told the magazine that Navalny always saw the Russian march as a legitimate form of political expression among Russians who want a free and democratic society. He added he believes that if you don't talk to the kind of people who attend these marches, they'll all become skinheads. But if you talk to them, you may be able to convince them that their real enemy is Putin. Since the mid-2000s, Navalny appeared to have softened his stance on immigration, advocating for visa scheme for Central Asia and migrants and to protect their rights as laborers. He has also adopted more left-leaning economic positions and came out in support of gay marriage. Oh, look at that. So again, I'm not saying there's no room for redemption, right? There is room for redemption, but the blatant hypocrisy that we will look past a man who called Muslims cockroaches when anybody else, that shit's gonna come right back up, right? He's not the saint that people fucking want to make him out to be. That's the point. And the point is that he's being used as a figurehead to keep people in lockstep with this war machine ideology where we just got to go in there and intervene and fucking, rape and pillage. So I did an article about it. I write better than I talk, so we'll read this. On Saturday, February 17th, 2024, the Irish rock band U2 honored the late Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny at their concert in Las Vegas. Bono, the lead singer, addressed the crowd about the ongoing crisis in Ukraine, which was invaded by Russia 2 years ago. He also commended Navalny for his courage and sacrifice in resisting Putin's tyranny. Thanks, Bono. Bono then urged the audience to chant Navalny's name, which Putin refused to acknowledge. The crowd joined in a loud and respectful tribute. Navalny is a figure lionized by some as a symbol of resistance against Russian President Vladimir Putin's regime. Was far from Navalny, a figure lionized by some as a symbol of resistance against Putin's regime, was far from the saintly figure portrayed by U2. While his opposition to corruption and authoritarianism garnered him international attention, Navalny's own record is tarnished by a history of xenophobic and nationalistic rhetoric. It is no secret that Navalny has ties to extremist elements within Russian society. He shamelessly participated in events like the Russian March, a gathering known for its far-right affiliations, and propagated inflammatory views regarding minority groups, particularly Muslim immigrants, whom he likened to vermin in his videos. Cockroaches. His unrepentant stance and refusal to distance himself from his past actions only served to underscore his troubling nature of his beliefs. Furthermore, Navalny's dubious credentials as a champion of democracy are called into question by his expulsion from the Liberal Party due to his nationalist activities, his unwillingness to apologize for his earlier transgressions, and his continued association with extremist factions cast a long shadow over his purported commitment to democratic ideals. By endorsing Navalny's legacy without critically examining his divisive past, YouTube perpetuates a dangerously simplistic narrative that overlooks the complexities of the situation in Ukraine. Putin's invasion of Ukraine cannot be reduced to a mere struggle between good and evil, as Navalny supporters would have us believe. Instead, it is a multifaceted geopolitical conflict with deep historical roots and extinction-level ramifications. In light of these revelations, it becomes evident that the United States is exploiting Navalny's death as a propaganda tool to rally support for funding the proxy war against Russia. By glorifying an individual with a checkered past like Navalny, the U.S. government aims to manipulate public sentiment and justify its interventionist agenda in Ukraine. U2's participation in this charade only serves to highlight their role as useful idiots in perpetuating a narrative that aligns with Washington's interests, despite the inherent complexities and risks involved. It is imperative for the American public to recognize this manipulation and demand a more transparent and accountable approach to foreign policy, one that prioritizes diplomacy over militarism and respects the sovereignty of other nations. Not bad, right? So yeah, this is on WeSpeakEnglishGood.com under WSEG News. Anybody who's listening or watching, you can I update this pretty much daily with different blogs and stuff. But yeah,